Hi, Millie. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back to see me this week. How have you been?
All good, all good. Feeling
All
pretty good
good.
about myself lately.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I'm glad that you are feeling good about what we're doing, and glad that you came back to see me after this first week here. And I think we'll be able to take some of this time in the next couple of weeks to really work on some of these issues that we spoke about last time. Um,
Definitely.
I think we can really help some of those. So just to recap real quick, last time, just what we talked about real quick, so that we both kind of get a little refresher. Um, so we so you're an exercise instructor. You do some classes, some client service, that sort of thing, uh, and you are from Puerto Rico. You're there right
Yeah.
now, raised in a single parent home by your mother, who works with animals and animal abuse. You have your bachelor's in psychology. You have a ton of dogs. We learned that, and a quite boisterous parrot, uh,
Yep.
like hearing some of those songs. Um,
Yeah.
you kind of described yourself as a loner, that you like to do things kind of by yourself, and that normally you don't have problems talking to someone when necessary. You're usually pretty positive,
Mhm.
very upfront with people, um, but that you think some of this communication could use a little work still. Um, and then so the two classes that I had you teaching were a choreography weight training class, as
Mhm.
well as an indoor cycling class. And um, really, the issues that we kind of got at last time were a little bit of a lack of focus, some issues with some energy management, um, and a little bit of emotional control. Um, and so we had kind of gone over that you were unfocused in your choreography routine. That's some turnover in the gym, and taking on some new roles and that sort of thing, and actually going back into client service, um, kind of kind of shook things up a little bit, and might have led to some of these issues, or at least contributed to some of these issues, that you were physically drained. Um, and really you just want to kind of get that focus back, that energy management under control, and your goal is to kind of return to the shape that you were in before this kind of started, kind of getting out a little out of control. Was all that pretty correct?
Yep, you got it all.
Okay, perfect. So um, how about you tell me how this week went? Anything stick out? Anything you want to talk about?
Well, going back to the turnover thing, we have more roles,
Okay.
but at least we have our schedule a little bit better um, in terms of hours, even though we're working in a lot of departments at once. Me in particular, I can officially say I'm the utility of the gym. I have covered every base there is to cover.
Very
But
nice.
um, based on the homework that you told me to study my performance profile, I was really shocked, like maybe not immediately, but afterwards to see that my confidence was very, very low and that my focus also was very low. It's not the same rating it than actually internalizing it and seeing that you're just not there.
Okay.
So I tried this week to schedule myself, even my own personal hours. Like there's work schedule and there's my training and there's my nutrition and there's a lot of things going on at once. So I just said to myself, hey, write it out, see how you can manage everything, and just go with the flow. So I
Okay.
did that. And I have to say, it sort of worked because I felt organized. I realized that maybe a feeling that I might have had before was that time wasn't enough. And by writing everything down and like trying to schedule everything, it worked a bit. Um, Also, a good experience was actually today. It was my not entirely my free day, but I had a couple of hours in between my two shifts, so I trained, and I was pretty focused, pretty in the game, as you say, in the zone, and I was doing deadlifts,
Hmm.
and actually I did a weight that I never thought of doing.
Okay, very good.
So I was pretty happy. My coach saw the video and he was like, "Great job!" And I'm like, "Woohoo! Yay!
Yeah,
Something good finally."
yeah, that's really good. That's definitely something to not overlook. That's something you want to start to see. Yeah, we're back on this path. I'm starting to do a new weight that I've never done before, and just kind of see that. Um, Talking through some of this stuff will definitely help clear some things up. And like I said, hopefully I can provide you with some skills and techniques to even further improve that. Because as we kind of grow that confidence, that control, that focus ability, um, you, pushing yourself to those higher limits
Hmm.
is going to start becoming easier and easier. Um, as we kind of get that performance to the level where we want it to be at. So that's really great. I'm glad that you brought up something like that. Kind of keying in on our successes is really important sometimes.
Definitely.
So what else went on this week?
Um, Also, professionally speaking, I have my first PT client officially in the gym. I've helped
Okay.
people, um, as you say, well, we have a saying that's under the table. I don't know if you guys say it in the States, but I like, for example, I've helped my best friend. She wanted to do a photo shoot, and I what I know about training and nutrition, I helped her out, and she reached a tremendous conditioning. And but I hadn't had the opportunity to actually have a client in the gym. I was doing the group classes, I was doing client service, but actually training someone, I never thought like it would happen so soon. And not only that, she has a lot of mobility issues. So I was kind of scared. I was like, uh-oh, I've never
Okay.
had someone, she has mobility issues, how I'm going to attack this? Because everyone in my gym has education in this as far as bachelor degrees go. I only have a certification.
Okay.
So I've, I think I felt a little bit threatened in that department, but there's nothing that the internet doesn't tell you. So I started doing research and asking my boss, like, hey, I have this client, I have these issues with her. Um, I can't go and train her as I'm used to training people because she won't be able to last. And today we had a breakthrough as well in her training. She has issues with her hip, and I started some mobility drills last week. And this week I was like trying to challenge her in terms of weight. I was training her body weight, and I started implementing dumbbells today, and she was feeling great. She was feeling perfect. I even taped her like, "Hey, look at yourself. You're doing this. You thought you were not able to do this, and now you're doing it in just a 2 weeks matter. It's great progress." And yeah, I told her I am really really proud of you. Like, she's a tough cookie. She's like, oh, I don't want to do that, or do I have to? And I'm like, yes, you want abs, you have to. And so the relationship has been better. She's trusting my work more, and I guess we're on a good path. And professionally, that's a really confidence booster for me. Like seeing my client actually have make some progress in her training, and she's actually excited that she's dropped some weight, some pounds, sorry, too. So I was pretty thrilled today about that.
Very nice. Yeah, that's great. Um, so I know that you said that kind of going into it, you were a little scared. Did
Yeah.
that kind of change as you got actually started working with her? How do you feel? How do you feel now that you've been working a little bit with her?
Well, at first, I thought I wasn't going to be able to actually cause an impact on her.
Okay.
I think it's still too early to say, but I think something that worked is that she always asked questions. And why am I doing this? And why am I doing that? And I actually was surprised that I could provide her with an answer. And I'm like, hey, I know this. So um, that that kind of contributed to my confidence to work towards working with her. And this week, I think she felt it in terms that I was pushing her more and like I was telling her, this is body weight exercises. This is basic. I know you feel basic, but we have to do this in order to progress you to bigger things.
Okay.
And she understood the process. So at least this week, felt because today was my last training with her this week. I see her next week. I feel pretty confident, especially today. We even had a girl conversation and doing cardio. She didn't want to. She didn't want to do cardio. Nobody wants to do cardio, and she's like, "But I want abs." And I'm like, "Okay, you want abs? You have to do cardio. I'll do it with you." And I had to change and had to do cardio with her, and but she was smiling. She was okay. She's, as I said before, she's a tough cookie. Nobody in the gym actually, like, when they told me she was my client, they were like, she is a tough one to crack. She's really, how do you say this? Exigente. Crap, I have the Spanish word. Um, hate it when that happens. Ah, she asks a lot, like, not of herself, but of the people around her.
Okay.
And everyone in the gym was like, you handle her. And I was like, okay, let's go. What can I say? It's my client.
Yeah.
She's training. I have to go. I have to do it.
That's a great attitude to have.
So yeah, right now we're buddies. She's like, she seems more comfortable. I am more comfortable. So
Beautiful.
I'm looking forward for these next 2 weeks with her.
Very nice. I'm glad to hear that. And yeah, that's great to kind of see, to see you already recognizing that, yeah, maybe going into it, you felt a little threatened, a little scared. But kind of as you saw yourself succeed and as you saw her succeed and progress, you kind of gain that confidence. And that's a really good thing to have, is that sense of recognition. So definitely keep that in mind. This was a great example of kind of pointing out, hey, I saw that I felt this way to begin with. This, and this happened, and by seeing this, it made me feel a little more confident.
Mm-hmm.
So now we can kind of take that into other scenarios and kind of use that to help us develop a plan on maybe how to become more confident in some other scenarios. So I know that it can be hard to kind of recognize our feelings change, or how our body changes, or how our thoughts change on something. So you having that recognition already is putting you up here already to start. That's a really great thing. And later, actually, I'm gonna have us work on a little, I guess you can call it an activity here, and I'm gonna give you a little homework later. That's gonna hopefully help us to strengthen that recognition, because without being able to recognize a problem or recognize an area for change, it's hard to make those changes.
Definitely.
So I'm really glad that you brought that up to me. So that's good news, though, that we got a new person, new client here. Great to see that you're already starting to see some progress with her. How about anything else that came up this week that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I'm going back to the classes.
Okay.
This week I've been asked to substitute again. So it's been a little bit overwhelming, um, physically, but I'm starting to manage it. It's like I'm getting used to it, I guess. But I feel that being so repetitive, like I am the only one given the class, I don't know how to challenge my clients anymore since it's a choreography. And I've tried different techniques today. For example, I chose the tracks I gave to them. Since they took 2 classes with me prior to today, I was like, okay, then this is the third day you're with me, and we still have a fourth day on Saturday. So I'm just gonna take it slow today, and on Saturday we'll attack it again to have a good kick on the weekend. Yet I can see in their faces, or I can feel a vibe that they want to be challenged. And I'm like, out of tools, I don't know if it's because of how many times a week I'm giving the same class, or if it's myself. I feel a little bit more focused on the tracks. I changed the tracks actually. I've been given this release for about 2 weeks, but in these last 2 weeks, I've been giving it. If the class is offered in the gym for it's 5 times, 4 times, I've been 2 to 3 weeks doing it by myself all the time. The idea of bringing in another instructor was to alternate between us two and have variety,
Hmm.
but he doesn't seem that interested, so everything goes back to me.
Okay.
And yeah, so in terms of the classes, both classes, I feel that in my indoor cycling class, I can give a. My group it's exciting. They like to scream and shout and just have a great kick out of the workout. But my there's another group that's really, 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 really focused into competitive training. So they like for me to ride the bike, like they like for me to be on the bike and pedaling with them. That's one.
Hmm.
And the other class, it's like what to do. So I feel like one class is being a limiting factor to the other because I'm not riding the bike as I'm supposed to.
Okay.
So one class I'm focused, I have missed a beat, but then the other one they are like, come on, just go with the flow, try to challenge us. Sorry. And this it was Tuesday. I gave the class Tuesday at 6 a.m. They were like, I found my drive and my inspiration about the last 2 tracks of the class. I'm like, oh hey, I can do this, or I can do that. Trying to challenge them, but still, I have to come up with a better option, or I don't know, just feel a little bit more confident in switching my classes if I need to.
Okay. So kind of what I'm getting here is that so there's two separate classes,
Yeah.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so one class is a pretty competitive group. They like you on the bike. They like doing tougher courses and like seeing you engaged with them, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the other group um, is kind of, I want to say, more of a beginner group. Is that what I'm getting? Or a more intermediate group?
They're intermediate group, but they're more. How do I say this? More party like. They like the music to be
Like
very
upbeat
exciting. Yeah,
and
they're very upbeat. They're
okay.
very upbeat, and actually, they psych me up. They're like, one client just goes with a whistle, and every time it's funny because people don't actually like it, but I do, and I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
where's the whistle? Come on! When she's tired, she whistles. It's like her way of psyching up. Like, let's get it on. Like, I like this.
Yeah.
I'm feeling tired and I want to keep going, and she whistles, and that's my cue. And I'm like, hey, I heard the whistle. Let's go, or whatever.
Yeah.
I get psyched up. The other group is more mellow in terms of energy. but they want to see this class as a training method for some courses they do outside. Like they actually ride mountain bike.
Okay.
They actually go out and ride. And they want me to challenge them in the class in order for them to perform well outside.
Okay.
And with them in particular, it's the same group week in and week out. And with them in particular, I told them it's not that I don't want to, it's that I can't drain you every class, because then you won't be able to perform. You will be too tired to perform. But at the
Okay.
same time, I am feeling that I'm being a little bit boring in the
Okay.
class. So I'm trying to see how I can spice it up. And I don't know if my other class has been a limiting factor since I switched my focus to being zoned into choreography and trying to be good at that, since it does have a pattern opposed.
Okay. So you're kind of stuck in between not wanting to push the group too hard, yet at the same time keeping it fresh and new and exciting for them and keeping them interested and coming back and engaged, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Um, have you tried getting any of the suggestions from the group members to see what thoughts they may have?
I tried. One of the guys told me um, that it didn't matter. That he was like, it's a bit confusing because one day he tells me like go all out, and then another day he tells me I can't because something hurts. I'm like, okay. So whatever plan I had that day, I had to switch it up in order for not to harm him or them, because they are the same group that takes the class is the same group that writes outside.
Okay.
So they're all friends. And I told him like, as a trainer, I'm not talking to you as a group class instructor. I'm speaking to you as a trainer, fitness coach. You can't go all out all the time. It's something that it's not beneficial. There's a time and place for everything. And going all out, it's not. I wouldn't recommend it. He didn't listen. He got injured.
Okay.
So now the classes I'm giving, I didn't switch the playlist. I'm trying to keep the same music. They like rock music, so I try to be um, giving them what they want in terms of music.
Okay.
um, I've been pretty successful at that, I might say. That's something I'm pretty
That's
good at,
good.
choosing music. But still, they got themselves all tired and all worried because they actually compete this weekend or next weekend, and they're like, oh no, my shoulder hurts or my knee hurts. And I'm like, yep, I told you not to go all out. I told you to focus on other things. And he still did whatever I said not to do. But still, one class, I can say I have been consistent this week, and the other class, not so much.
Okay. Now are you being inconsistent more because of what's occurring with them? Is it issues that they're bringing to you that are causing the inconsistencies, or is it because you're finding it maybe hard to focus with this group, or can't think of new challenges for this group, so you're maybe beating yourself up a little bit? What can you
I think it's both.
both?
Um,
Okay.
Also, all the hours most of the hours I work are in the morning, so I'm constantly switching from fitness coach to group class to client service to preparing shakes, protein shakes, and then switching to PT client, which is PT is personal training. Sorry, I'm used to saying PT. And it's all in a matter of seconds. Like I have to shift gears in a matter of time. And
Okay.
maybe I've been warming up to ideas rather late rather than earlier during the class. So I don't know if that might be a factor. I think it is. For example,
Okay.
um, let's say Mondays, I have a training group at 7 a.m. and I have a class at 8 a.m. It's not the same. So I
Okay.
have to shift gears, switch it up, and go into the group class mode instructor from being corrective exercise and being focused on how the client is moving, if he or she is doing the movement or exercise correctly, switching to all hyped up, energetic, and group class instructor, and then switching back to client service, the mellow person, like, hey,
Okay.
what can I do for you? So maybe switching up in a matter of 5 minutes or less, it's a bit
Okay.
overwhelming, I guess, until I get used to it. Um, and yeah, Tuesdays, for another example, I give one class at 6 a.m., another class at 7 a.m., and then I shift to client service mode. So it's a bit like three different, I like to categorize it as if they were three different personalities. Because one, I
Okay.
have to be mellow and like, this is this way, and trying to push the client, but not too energetic because it's not a class. And then I have to switch to the energetic, screamy girl and like, let's go type of person, and then switch back to the mellow, what can I do for you? And that third phase, normally I'm really tired from all the classes, but that's another story.
Okay. So, kind of what I'm getting is that the constant kind of changing of stations is kind of keeping you switching back and forth between kind of your roles and your own personality style to fit the needs of the position you're in at the time, and it's starting to get overwhelming, and understandably so when you have so much change in such a short amount of time. Um, have you ever tried writing out like a kind of like a schedule, but really outlining when you have not only when you have classes or when you have to change for a class, but have you also pointed out times where you have a break or times where you're maybe not necessarily rushing so much? Have you had a chance to try anything like that?
Not really. I do schedule what I have to do, not
Okay.
when I'm not doing anything. So the answer is no, I haven't tried that.
Okay. Well, I think that is something that, especially for this issue, since it's doesn't seem like it's something that's going to change right away. It looks like this might be something you have to deal with for a little while, and the changing of rules. Um, I think that might be a good thing to do, because a lot of times when we're rushing all around, our mind is going a mile a minute. We're thinking about
Hmm.
what's coming up next, and that kind of comes back to our issue of lacking focus. When we're thinking about so many things at once, it kind of it doesn't allow us to pay attention to some of the things we need to. And this is kind of a way that I like to think of it, a little bit, the concept of attention. Think of you just became a chef. You got a thing of dough, you got some sauce, you got some cheese, you got some toppings. You're planning on making a pizza, right? You want to
Hmm.
make a delicious pizza. You want to feed people. You want them to be happy with this pizza. So think of that pizza once you make it as your attention, right? You can give so much attention to certain things, but when it's gone, you
What do I
don't
do?
have any more ingredients to make another pizza, right? You're just kind of
Hmm.
out of attention. And so you can give it to a bunch of people, but everyone's going to get a really small slice then, right? And
Hmm.
probably no one's going to be hungry, or no one's going to be full after that. They're still going to want more. But if we kind of take our attention and say, okay, well, I might need to focus more on this now, or might need to focus more on that, it allows us to, using this example, provide someone with a bigger piece. So they might have now a piece of pizza that is gonna make them full, that it is gonna satisfy what they wanted. And so I think of attention the same way. And so when your mind's running a mile a minute and you're thinking of all these other things, you're lessening the amount of attention you can give to the task at hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be beneficial, like I said, to look at your schedule and not necessarily note what's coming up or what you have to do through the day, but note those times where you have a break in between, even whether it's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever that time is. Use that time to kind of just gather yourself. When you're rushing back and forth, you might not stop to think of what you need to do in the moment. And so when you get those times where, hey, I don't have a class for another 5 minutes, I got a minute where I can slow down, I can catch my thoughts, I can catch my breath. And I think that that'll also not only allow you to kind of focus on what's at hand, but it'll also give you that time to make that transition in your own mood and in your own energy and that sort of thing. We can definitely go over some relaxation techniques. We can go over some energizing techniques. Whatever you feel is going to be the best. So along with what I'm going to give you also for today, I think that'll be a good thing as well. If just maybe through the next few days, the next week, take time to notice those break times, and then take the time to really use them, and then kind of come up with, hey, I might need a little more energy here. Let me see if there's something I can do here. Hey, I just finished a class. My heart rate is 150 beats a minute. I just need to slow down. I need to mellow out because I got to go do client service or whatever it is. And kind of note those break times, and then note what you think is going to help you, one, catch your thoughts and kind of straighten everything out, and two, get into kind of that role, that personality that you're going to need. And so if you can bring that back to me next week when we meet, that will kind of give me an idea of, okay, let's teach some relaxation techniques, or let's teach some energizing techniques, and maybe give you some tools that you can use to kind of help you out in those situations and get you to that energy level you need, whether you need to come down or whether you need to go up. Mm-hmm. So is that something you think you can do for me?
Definitely. Sounds interesting.
Yeah, because I know a lot of times when we think of our schedule, it's, okay, I do this, then I do this, then I do this. We don't necessarily take time to think about the breaks we have, or the time that we can use to kind of gather ourselves and to recenter ourselves and say, okay, I finished this, now let's move on to this. And I think that's going to help keep that focus. And I think it's also definitely going to help with energy management, because when we take that time to slow down and collect ourselves, it gives our mind a second to kind of relax. It gives our body a second to relax. And hopefully, as we can manage the energy throughout the day, then it'll help us manage the energy throughout the week. And then hopefully by that time, we're running on all cylinders all throughout the week. And we're at that performance level where you'd like to be. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that is, I think that's a really good thing, just kind of to pay attention to, and just know that, okay, I got a second. I don't have to rush over here. I can take my time. Just let's get back into the swing of things.
I like that. It's a different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of looking at it from a different way. because sometimes we get stuck in the same rut, and it just takes looking at something from a little different perspective to kind of to get us where we need to go.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be really busy this week trying to shift my focus. I like that.
Well, speaking to focus, there is a little kind of, I guess it's an activity that I kind of wanted to more of an assessment for me almost, to kind of see what is what might be coming through, and what might be kind of contributing to this distraction. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share a thing with you. Let me know if you can see that.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. That is not the part I want up there. This is the part I want. Okay. So can you see that where it says distraction frequency up at the top?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to kind of go through these with you, and you'll just let me know kind of the answers to these, and I'm going to go ahead and circle them here on my sheet, which will kind of give me an idea of what might be the biggest contributing factor to some of the distractions and that sort of thing. So the first section is personal thoughts. So this is any time where you might be, say you're in a class and you start thinking about having to go to client service next, or you're with a client doing some one-on-one work, and then you're thinking about the class you have next. So anything where your thoughts aren't necessarily matching up with what's in front of you at the time. So during the classes, would you say that these thoughts kind of affect your focus never, sometimes, or like always, frequently?
I'd have to say, wow, tough choice. Personal thoughts in terms of switching roles, I'd have to say always.
Okay.
Um, it normally, I don't know if I can like elaborate on that. So, normally would be like when I'm ending a class or about to, I'm like, oh no, I need to shift roles, and it's I would all the classrooms have a clock, so it's like, oh, I have like 10 minutes or I have 5 minutes to change and go back to my other department. And so I have to say, in terms of switching roles, it's always, most of the time.
Okay. And so is that the same kind of thing for client service, for the personal training? That's all basically when you're getting ready to switch, you're getting those personal thought distractions always. Okay.
Yeah, both of them would be always. Although I have to point out that I feel more stressed or anxious. I'd have to say stressed, not anxious. When I have to switch from class to client service, like I feel that I won't have enough time to change. When I'm at client service, sometimes we have slow hours, so it doesn't really affect that much, and it seems easier for me to switch. Like if I have to change or something, we work in gym clothes, so it's not that bad. Although it does cause some stress sometimes if we're in a rush hour or something. Lately, I haven't had that much stress from client service to class, but otherwise, yeah, from class to client service, I have to log in my hours. So sometimes I get a little bit stressed because of that.
Okay. All right. So that's good. Good that we can kind of have a place to start from and work from there. So we're going to move on to personal feelings. So um, during any of the classes, do you ever, not necessarily your thoughts, but do some outside feelings ever cause distraction? Like, are you finding yourself angry or even too happy or any kind of emotion that you feel is taking away your focus from either class, client service, or other working with personal training or whatever that may be?
I'd have to say sometimes.
Okay.
Normally at the beginning of anything, I'm pretty good at leaving personal feelings aside from what is my job.
Okay.
But sometimes, yeah, it might get in the way when I'm starting to prep. It might affect my psych up or energizing feelings or whatever I might call it. Um, so if there were a gradient between those, I would say from sometimes to never, but definitely sometimes at
Okay.
the beginning.
So more in the middle of
Yeah,
something.
once I warm up, it's all gone and I'm there.
Okay. That's alrighty. Okay, and so now we'll move to kind of we'll go to coworkers, and this could
Mhm.
also be clients as well. So whether either a coworker coming up to speak to you or a client coming up and asking questions, anything like that. How often would you say that kind of affects your focus in class, client service, or during personal training?
I'd have to say, wow, this is a tough one to answer. My focus never.
Okay,
Like,
so yeah, that's what we want to get at. So I know that if someone comes up and asks you a question, that you might answer their question, but um, let's try to think of times where maybe a coworker or a client might come up, and that affects your focus later on, whether after they leave after the question or anything like that, where something that a coworker says or does or a client says or does might be on your mind later down the line, affecting focus.
I'm still choosing never.
Never. Okay.
I have a recent example actually. There's a new girl in the gym. Somehow I ended up giving her training regimen to understand the department she's in. Of course, I've been through all of them. And when she sees me at the gym, normally when she's on a shift, I am giving classes. And if she has a question, she would stop me before I get into the classroom and like snap a question at me. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to a class. Hold on to the question. I'll answer it when I get back because I can't. I'm focused at one role right now rather than switching to a client service question. And so that's why I'm choosing never because
Okay.
at least in terms of coworkers, I draw a line and I told them to wait. Like, handle yourself. Tell them you'll answer the question in a few minutes or an hour, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, that's great that you kind of have that recognition, and that's really going to help us as well, because when someone says distractions, you kind of just lump a bunch of things together, but there are internal distractions that we have that kind of we create ourselves, and then there are external distractions. So both can be dealt with, of course, but you kind of deal with them in different ways. So it's really good to know, okay, I'm being more affected by internal distractions than external, or vice versa, so
Mhm.
that we can kind of attack the problem in the correct manner. So with that,
Makes sense.
how would you say kind of like noise or anything going on out in the gym, in the environment, how often would you say stuff like that affects your classes, your client service, that sort of thing?
Never.
Never. Okay.
No.
And that's kind of based on the other answer. That's kind of what I thought. And so, yeah, this is great. It definitely shows me that that the internal distractions, kind of stuff that you're creating yourself, is causing a little more of a problem. And so that's great. That definitely gives us a direction to go in from here. So yeah, that's really great. So thank you for taking the time to do that with me. And so I'm gonna scroll this down. I don't think I'm not going to have you do this today because of the other homework assignment that we're going to have looking at the schedule. But this is something that I kind of wanted to show you just to keep in mind. And so what I was going to have you do is use this as kind of a recognition log. And part of the reason we're not going to do it too is because you've showed me that that you are starting to recognize some of these things. And so recognition may not need to be our focus right now. But what this log would do is kind of has us lay out a situation where we might have lost focus. So say you're, like you said before, you're in class, you're doing a cycling class, you look up at the clock, it's getting close to the end of time, and you start thinking about, oh, I got to go train this person now. What exercises are we going to be doing? This, and this. So just based on recognition, what we would do is you would write kind of the day and the time that it occurred. You would write the situation. So at the end of class, looked at the clock, started thinking about my upcoming personal training session. Then you would kind of outline the outcome. So I started thinking about this. Next thing I knew, one of the people in class had stopped pedaling, help us and able to help them. Just something like that. And so, like I said, we're not going to do this right now, but we may come back to this maybe next week or the week after, because this last column on here is something that I really think is going to be beneficial for us, but it's going to be more beneficial later on a little bit. So what that is there, like I said, there are some techniques. There are some relaxation techniques, some energizing techniques, some refocusing techniques, all things that we can kind of go over and use to help us in scenarios like this. So like I said, maybe next week, maybe the week after, we'll kind of see, instead of maybe just focusing on recognition, maybe we'll have you kind of still recognize these issues and then outline maybe a focus technique or something, or a breathing technique, something that we went over that might help in that scenario. And then hopefully that'll allow us to see what's going to work best for you, what might not work, and that sort of thing. So that's something we'll keep in mind. So while, like I said, we're not going to do the log today. I'm going to bring you back here. We're not going to do the log today, like I said, but definitely something to keep in mind is being able to recognize when you lose focus, or like I said, with what you're going to be doing this week until I see you next, being able to recognize when you might need a little more energy, when you might need to relax, recognize those areas where you have a little time to slow down. Because again, it all comes back to, if we can't recognize a problem, how are we going to fix it? Mm-hmm. So definitely want you to keep those in mind. And other than that, I think we have a really good idea of what direction to go in. It's definitely kind of in speaking in what we went over last week, and then kind of some of these issues that came up this week. It definitely seems like some energy management and some focus and some refocusing strategies and that sort of thing are definitely going to be beneficial. So I think that's kind of the direction that we're headed right now. But for now, like I said, I just kind of want you to like look over that schedule, map it out. Go ahead and write down your breaks if you want. Make a big sheet if you want to, something that you're going to see and say hey, okay, I have a break here. This is what I can do. I need to have my energy up here. Maybe I can do this. So like I said, let's get that worked out over the upcoming week, and then when we meet next week, we'll start going over some of these strategies for refocusing and some of these relaxation techniques or energizing techniques. And hopefully by implementing some of those, we can get you to the level where you want to be and where I think that you can be. So with that being said, was there anything else that you wanted to kind of speak with me about today? Anything you want to bring up? Any questions?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
I really like the homework. I'm really eager to start seeing what's in store for my new schedule.
No, that's what I like to hear. Keeping you motivated to do that. That's a great thing. So yeah, it's I think it'll be eye-opening because sometimes we think that we're really rushed sometimes, and we don't take the time to stop and say, hey, I got time for a break real quick, or that sort of thing. So I think highlighting those breaks is definitely going to help us with that energy management throughout the week.
Definitely.
Alrighty. Well, if there's nothing else, then I hope that you have a great night tonight. I hope you have I'm sure you have a busy work day tomorrow, it sounds like. And other than that, I hope you have a great weekend and a great week. And we'll talk to you next week. And as always, if you need me anytime sooner or anything like that, don't hesitate to give me a call, shoot me an email. We can definitely work something out.
Will do.
Alrighty, Millie. Well, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too.